I am so excited to introduce you all to our amazing panelists. Let's begin with a little bit of a background on each of them. First up, we have Erica Walker. Erica Walker, pronouns she, her, is a visionary, community organizer, educator, leader, and licensed social worker. Erica is the program manager at Chicago Hopes for Kids, providing academic and social emotional supports for our children experiencing homelessness. She's a local school council chairperson, executive board member at Cam Isaiah Israel, a Reform Jewish synagogue in Hyde Park, and a founding member of the Kol Or Jews of Color Caucus of the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs. She holds an AB from Harvard University with honors in African American Studies and an MA in clinical social work from the University of Chicago. She's the mother of 2 sons. Our next panelist is Josephine Robinson. Josephine H. Robinson recently retired in September of 2020, where she had been working in the social service field since 1977. She was born and raised on the south side of Chicago and resides there currently. She has an MA from the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration and a BA from Valparaiso University. She retired from the World Vision U.S. Program Chicago, where she served as an engagement officer and parent coordinator. Her role included connecting families to services in order to improve the well-being of children associated with the organization. She also has worked as a specialist at Gage Park High School, where her focus was to assist students in applying for colleges, as well as conducting college tours and exposing them to various careers throughout presentations and career days. She served as the director of Chicago Commons Mary McDowell Settlement for 22 years, which served the greater Englewood communities through offering a variety of social services programs. During this time, she founded and directed Project Elevate, a college exploration program. She has volunteered as the chairperson for the Education Council for the DuSable Museum of African American History. In 2018, she co-founded the Cradle to Success Coalition after completing a fellows program with the Children's Defense Fund, which presently serves the South New City and Greater Englewood communities. She also co-founded Sisters in the Struggle with her sister friends, which provides mentoring and outreach to African American women and girls. She is a member of Salem Baptist Church of Chicago, Pastor James T. Meeks. Our next panelist is Patricia Rivera. Patricia Rivera, LCSW, was the founder and pro bono executive director for Chicago Hopes for Kids from July 2010 through January 2019. She has a Master of Social Work from the Jane Addams College of Social Work, Chicago, Illinois. She retired for the first time in 2010 after 33 years as a school social worker with the Chicago Public Schools, CPS, with the last 7 years as the administrator for the CPS Homeless Education Program. After she retired and CPS cut the funding for the shelter-based tutoring program, she and a group of dedicated volunteers founded Chicago Hopes for Kids. She currently is enjoying caring for her granddaughter, age 2, and volunteering with Hopes once a week. She's also learning to play the harp. Our next and final panelist is Tracy Burnell. Tracy Burnell is a social worker, author, and the founder of The Armor, Wear Your Worth, a mentoring organization that helps women and girls develop healthy emotions. For the last 5 years, The Armor has been a female freshman orientation program for students at Howard University. Participants in The Armor learn to demonstrate excellence in self-presentation, leadership, conflict resolution, and professional development. Tracey is a licensed master's level social worker who has been practicing in the field of mental health and wellness for 24 years. She graduated from Washington University with a master's in social work and Howard University with a Bachelor of Arts in print journalism. Tracey has worked in community mental health settings, non-public schools, child and family agencies, and foster care agencies. Tracey currently works at Thrive Behavioral Mental Health in Montgomery County, Maryland, as a mental health therapist, where she provides telehealth psychotherapy to children, adolescents, families, and adults. She utilizes a variety of techniques and skills drawn from therapeutic modalities, including cognitive behavioral therapy, psychoeducation, play therapy, behavior modification, mindfulness, and relaxation. Tracy works in partnership with their clients, identifying their needs and utilizing their strengths to help them sort out their challenges and achieve their goals. She is a member of Kingdom Fellowship AME Church in Silver Spring, Maryland, and serves in the outreach ministry as a mentor to incarcerated youth. She is also an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Tracy lives in Montgomery County, Maryland, with her husband, Michael, and their feisty rescue dog, Pepper Girl. In her spare time, she is completing her second book, cooking, and checking in on her family in Chicago. We are now going to transition into our panel. Today, our facilitators will be Hannah Miller and Kimberly King. Hannah is a state and national AmeriCorps member with HOPES, and Kimberly is our AmeriCorps Vista volunteer coordinator and is a member of our outreach team.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kimberly King, as she mentioned. I am this year's AmeriCorps Vista volunteer coordinator at HOPES. And today we will get started on our panel. So we have about roughly 40 minutes for this section. We have about 4 questions, so leaves about 8 to 10 minutes per question for our panelists, and we will get started. So for our panelists, how do you define social work, and what brought you to the field of social work? Oh, and anyone can go.
Hi, this is Josephine Robinson. I define social work as providing social services to individuals, families, communities, and developing policies to impact the quality of life for people of all ages, with a special emphasis on those who are the most vulnerable. And the reason I got in social work, when I was a high school junior, I had an opportunity to be an interviewer with the University of Chicago on a major study they had for women on the program that was called Aid to Families with Dependent Children at that time. And I traveled all around the city and met these fascinating women, and they talked about how they raised their children and their concerns. And that motivated me to say, I would like to help people. And then my mother, who was never professionally trained, but really did what I consider social work services in our community in terms of helping others. So I've always had a commitment to want to help others, and social work was a natural field to go in when I went to Valparaiso University and on to USC.
Hi. Once again, my name is Tracy Burnell. I would define social work as empowering people. And when I think of people, I think of my clients. So empowering my clients to make changes that they want and support them if they want the support. And why did I go into the field of social work? Well, my parents were both teachers in Chicago Public Schools. I was born and raised on the South Side of Chicago. And when I got to college, I knew I didn't want to teach, but I thought I wanted to be a journalist. So although I am a writer, once I graduated, I realized I didn't want to write the way that I was taught to write in college. I worked in print journalism, so all I did was write for publications. And so I went to a summer camp my junior year, and I worked at a Boys and Girls Club. And that first week during the camp, I got camp counselor of the week. So that made me think, well, maybe I should go into this, working with kids. And that's where I went and decided I would, go into social work, and I would focus on children and youth. So I'm able to do that, and I love it. And I've been doing it all over ever since.
Well, I'm Patricia Rivera, and I define social work as advocacy for clients, for families, for children, as far as also helping them determine what they want for themselves, and then supporting them, as you said, Tracy, in what they've decided to do. I'm also a huge believer in social work as being a resource for people in the community, and helping people understand what resources are available to them. And then if there's not a resource available, creating that resource for families. So I think what I tried to do as a school social worker was connect children and families with services in the community that would help them, and also then advocate for them if they were having difficulty being able to connect with those resources. I remember going to the public aid office with parents in order to help them get services, money for living, and then also helping connect families with SSI for a group of our children that were deaf. So it's really trying to be there to support families and connect them with community resources as much as possible. And the reason I got into social work is that my father was a minister, and he always encouraged us to get involved with service. And so when I graduated from college, at the time, really that was quite a while ago, they had just started the VISTA program. And so I didn't really know enough about that to get involved with it at that time, but our church had a year of service. So we dedicate ourselves to a year of service in the community. And I had thought I'd go to New Mexico to work with the Indian population and the American Indian population in New Mexico. But instead I got a phone call from Association House of Chicago to come to Chicago. And when I got here, I realized I didn't have the skills that I needed in order to really help people in the community. So I got involved with Jane Addams School of Social Work and decided that's what I wanted to do. So I always have wanted to work with kids, and I had 33 wonderful years of working with Chicago Public Schools. And then again, because our children who were in shelters didn't have the services they needed in order to be successful, that's when Chicago Host for Kids got founded. So, I've been really privileged to be a social worker, and I want to advocate for social work as well. It's really a wonderful profession to be in.
Hi, it's Erica Walker here. How I define social work. I think social work is work that seeks to foster justice, empowerment of individuals and communities. It's work that seeks to balance imbalances in our world, seeks to bring balance to imbalanced systems. And that works at different levels, at the level of individual, the level of families, the level of communities and societies. But social work, in essence, is seeking to connect people to the resources that help them achieve their dreams, that helps people create the communities that they desire, that helps people shape and move towards the life that they desire for themselves. And so that happens through many different channels, it happens through many different ways, but I think that's kind of the fundamental feature there. How I came to social work, how I became interested in social work. Well, I knew that I wanted to do something that would be meaningful and impactful with my life. Some of you have heard my very long story. It's a very long story, but I received some amazing opportunities in my life. right? I was able to attend Harvard University on 95% scholarship. I was thinking, how can I take this advantage? How can I take this opportunity that has been given to me and utilize it to invest in the improvement of my community? How can I take this advantage and create a life for myself that is meaningful, that's purposeful, but also benefit my community? So through a very long, winding, twisting road, through community service and education, working in a therapeutic setting, I came to see that I really wanted to do social work, that it was something that I was interested in. It was something that kind of intersected a lot of my interests. And it was something that I could always be proud to say that I did. So that brought me to social work.
Thank you so much to our panelists so far for answering the first question. My name's Hannah. I'm the other facilitator with Kim and also Nicole. So I'll just get going on our second question. And that's going to be, how have your intersecting identities impacted the work that you do? That could be racially, gender identity, or your overall intersecting experiences. And I will pass that on to Josephine. If you'd like to answer first.
Yes. Well, one of the ways I see, I saw what a difference people made in my life in terms of being able to make good choices. I had a great mom. I had a great community that I came from, a great church, and a wonderful school. And I know that individuals can impact and work to change the quality of life for individuals as well as communities. So what I found is that I am motivated to know that we can be the change that we want to have happen. You know, a lot of times people say, what can I do? Well, you can take whatever your skill set is and target that to improve and work in partnership at different levels. So I've worked with young people, and really sometimes young people don't see the wonderfulness, if that's a word, in them. So what I did is I kind of made sure that I exposed young people to positive things. I was passionate about college. I took young people around the country for over 25 years to HBCUs and colleges and let them see that this is possible. And also encourage them to be a part of positive activity. I'll share one. I have a young man who didn't want to be a nerd, but was very good with computers. And I told him, I said, there's a wonderful program, you should get involved. And he said, I spoke to him, he's a successful businessman. He owns his own tech company now. He does real estate. And he said, Ms. Robinson, I didn't want to do it because I wanted the girls to like me. And he said, what I appreciated that you did is that you encouraged me and you saw something in myself that I didn't see in myself. So one of the things that I think social workers have the power to do, both on an individual basis as well as collectively. One of the things that I also love doing is connecting people to resources. So when I left World Vision, I used to do this wonderful community engagement day. And the last community engagement day, we had 200 people there. And the goal was to connect people, because there are a lot of people that are doing wonderful things here in the city of Chicago. And people think sometimes that they're only doing it and they're the only ones committed. So to connect people with resources, to let them know that they're part of a larger bandwidth, and we can facilitate to make that happen. So I saw myself, and I'm committed to serving the African-American community. And I've always had the pleasure, and not that I didn't work with other communities, but I had a focus on working with the African-American community. And I know that you can make a difference. So now, even though I've retired, I've co-founded organizations, and that's what we're doing. We're saying that instead of a cradle to prison pipelines, I have a coalition that I call Cradle to Success. So that's how I see myself. That's it.
I'll jump in. So for me, my work broadly definitely intersects my different identities. So as you heard in my bio, I'm a Jewish woman of color. So a lot of my work outside of Hopes involves organizing other Jews of color and involves organizing the Jewish community here in, I live in Hyde Park, but here in Chicago. And I think, you know, my different identities come to bear in different venues in different ways, but they're always with me everywhere I go. So when I'm working in my synagogue community, I'm one of two people of color on the executive board there. And, you know, they recognize that they could have better diversity on the board as far as, you know, decision making, planning for the future of the community and things like that. And when I was approached, when I was asked and invited to join the board, I said yes, because I would leap at such an opportunity. Right? My other organizing work with the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs is facing other Jews of color. The experience of Jews of color is often very isolating. Many people feel like they're maybe the only one, or, you know, maybe one of 2 or 3 people that they've ever known who shares their unique intersecting identities. And so that work sits at the intersection of many different identities. For some of the people in our group, they're Asian Jews. For some, they're Hispanic. For some, they're, you know, maybe Black Jews, but were raised by white parents. So there are many different intersections in that work. But the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs is focused on issues that impact the city at large, so our community at large. They've worked on police accountability, pushed for the fair tax amendment, now are working to secure and uphold the rights of dreamers, trying to make sure that students are not being deported from school settings, or that schools are not complicit in deporting individuals. So in different arenas, kind of my different identities are coming to bear, or I'm sort of working to improve conditions for my intersecting communities. With Hopes, I would say around 90%, 85 to 90% of the children that we're working with are children of color. The vast majority of them are Black. And, you know, they are dealing with the circumstances in our immediate city environment, you know, are dealing with housing insecurity, are dealing with community violence, are dealing with violence from systems that they're asked to rely on, such as police. And I'm thinking always about how our larger community, the dynamics in our larger community, are directly impacting the children and families that we're working with. So I think who I am and, you know, the perspective that I'm coming from always informs my work. In Judaism, there's a concept called tikkun olam, which is repairing the world. So that is something that's very important to me. It's something that I carry with me in all of the work that I do. I'm seeking to find ways to repair and restore and improve, to bring together things that were broken, or to connect things that were disconnected. So it's a very intricate dance. It's a very intricate kind of balance. But for me, I try to draw from the strengths of all of those different identities, use those strengths to push forward wherever I am, in whatever capacity I'm working.
Well, I come from a family that really has been privileged. in terms of the fact that we were always told that we could do things, that we were never given the idea that you could not reach your full potential, that if there was something that you wanted to do or someone that you wanted to become, then all you had to do was work hard, get a good education, and do it. So I was born in Panama, and I think that that in part really made me decide that I certainly needed to work with the Hispanic community, work with the immigrant community, make sure I could understand people where I come from. So it really, my family did not speak Spanish, but it was up to me to learn the language and then to use it in the work that I do. So I think that in a way, you know, kind of where you come from definitely impacts the person that you're going to be. But I was very lucky in the fact that, again, I did not have people telling me you can't do this. It was always with my parents, with my sisters. I don't have any brothers, but with my sisters, and I'm the youngest. So my older sisters always required me to be better than they were. I've never quite succeeded, but I had to put myself, make sure that I was modeling myself after them and being the best that I could be. So I think in a way that really helped me in terms of, you know, developing my personality and deciding what it was I wanted to do and making sure to try to be inclusive, you know, and in a way, certainly English is one way, but the more languages that you can learn, the more things that you can do in order to be inclusive and to bring other people to the table who might not feel that they can be there, or once they're there, they can't communicate with other people that are there. So bringing those connections together, I think are super important. And I think that's, again, what Erica said about connectedness, but trying to do that in your life, bringing other people together and making them understand that they have a voice and that they can, that we value who they are. I think that's really what got me going as a person, and a reason that I decided to go into social work as well.
I guess I'll speak. So yes, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and it's always been primarily therapy that I've been doing. And I've worked mostly in predominantly African-American neighborhoods. First when I was in DC, then St. Louis, and then I moved to Los Angeles, worked in Compton and Watts in South Central LA, and then moved back to Chicago, North Side, South Side, West Side. So I've seen so much, and I always kept it really tight, a tight circle of youth. And interestingly enough, I always had more male clients, because I felt that I connected with them better. And it wasn't until I was, I guess I'd been doing, I'd say after about 15 years, I said to myself, why am I not engaging with women more? Why am I not telling them my story? Because my story could help them. And that is how I started the Armor Where You're Worth. It was basically just to be like, okay, I have a story and I want women to know this so they can feel empowered and they can be leaders. Because just like you, Josephine, I had a strong family, whereas like, you know, a family, they were, you know, teachers, they supported me, they supported my dreams. So I was like, I have to give this to women. So once I started the Armor and I was able to do that for girls, that just lifted it. Interesting enough, it lifted me into working in different groups. And once I moved to Montgomery County here in Maryland, that's when my scope got a lot broader, and I began working with Hispanics and white populations. And it was great to see I could still intersect that with women and with all the things that I've been taught as a community service leader, and just sharing my personal values and sharing my passions and my authentic self, and them accepting me, because I don't know if I thought that I would be accepted since I had been with such a population for such a long time. So that's what I know that I do bring. My overall experience is everything. It's just the sum of me and who I am. And even with my Christian values, like, you know, you were saying, Erica, me being able to connect with the client, if that is something that they're, you know, desiring, that is everything. And even with grief, having lost my mother and being able to connect with clients who are grieving, regardless if it is a parent or, you know, a sibling or anyone that's close. So just being able to bring my experiences into that.
So much. I had wrote it in the chat, but I said I love that every panelist's perspective is overlapping, in a sense that there is some basis for those within social work, that there's some basis of you wanting to make an impact at some level in being a community service leader. I just love hearing that part of it. We are going to go into our next question, and because of time, we're going to cut one question and possibly bring it back in for the audience Q&A. And it is, what is your vision for the field of social work and for Chicago? And I'll pass it to Tracy, just because I know you have to leave at 6:20.
I was going to pass it to the ladies who are in Chicago. I'm only in Chicago when I come see my parents once every other month. And, you know, I love Chicago. I want to tell you all, and I know Kimberly has heard this because of her going away to school, and then they hear the word Chicago and there's a fear. There's a fear, there's a like, oh my goodness. I remember when I first got to school, when my roommate, who was from a suburb of Houston, when she heard I was from Chicago, she was literally scared. I was like thinking, what were you scared of? But it was from everything that she hears. So I do want to hear what you ladies have to say about the city that I love and that, you know, needs healing just like other cities that are all over the United States. Chicago is not, you know, it's spotlighted a lot, but it's not, you know, so I acquiesce.
Okay, I'll join in. I see a great possibility, great opportunities, and I believe that those of us in the social work field can really be leaders in terms of making things happen. I think that change can happen, things can get better, but we've got to have people that are willing to do the work. And the work is really important. And as we deal with these issues that are facing our young people and our families during this COVID situation, I'm a Christian and my heart hurts for what I see that's going on in Chicago, but I believe that I can make a difference. So that's why, even though I retired from paid employment, I'm more and more committed to making sure that I'm doing my part to help deal with the issues that are impacting our city and our young people. So I think the future is, I'm an eternal optimist. My life is built on hope. And I know that we can make a difference, and we've just got to be committed to make it happen. And it's not simple, and I'm not trying to make it simple, but I'm trying, because I think people sometimes get so overwhelmed and they said, oh my, so much going on. But I just remember the people, because I recently did some Facebook posts to reflect on my life. And I just remember how people, social workers, great women of the church, teachers spoke life into me, and having a family. And I know that we've got to begin to help people, young people, build their village. And if they don't have a village, social workers are a key part to that village, to connecting those dots. So I'm hopeful. I know it's a challenge, but I think those of us that are committed to making life and working in partnership with the community can make it happen.
Well, I'm not a native Chicagoan. I haven't been here all my life, but I've been here most of my life, over 50 years now. So, and so I brought kind of a rural, what I want to say, identity with me to Chicago. And when I moved here, Tracy, like you were saying, people were so afraid of the city. I wasn't particularly afraid of the city, but my mother was afraid for me to come to the city. And, you know, for her, it was Al Capone. You know, that was the big deal in Chicago, was Al Capone. I mean, she was of that generation. So anyway, I really, well, I stayed. You know, I came, I stayed. Because I really, I think Chicago is a very workable city. I mean, we have our faults, we have our issues, but if you're committed to trying to do something to help, you can certainly do that. I mean, my vision, definitely part of my vision for Chicago is that we not have a homeless population, that we work in order to have our kids get a good education, but also work for trying to make sure we have affordable housing here in the city. You know, if we need more taxes in order to do that, then okay, we all pay our fair share. If we need to sign a petition to try and get something through city council, that we do that. But I mean, I guess homelessness right now is kind of the issue that is part of my heart. And I really would like to see, that's something we can do something about too. I mean, it's a very doable issue. And we need to just persevere. We need to persevere. And I think, again, Chicago is, we do have, you know, alderwomen that will listen to you if you go stop by their office and talk with them. So they're not unapproachable. You know, that's the one thing that I think is good, that you can. And I really, Josephine, I'm an optimist too. I wouldn't have stayed in Chicago all these years if I hadn't been an optimist. So, you know, I think you have to have that at the bottom of your soul, actually, and think that there is a better tomorrow and that you can be part of making that tomorrow better. So.
I appreciate hearing your responses. So the future of social work, the future of Chicago, what do I see? I feel that we are in an amazing moment right now for social work, that more people than ever, it seems, are beginning to see the potential benefits of having more social workers at the table, having more social workers in the rooms where it happens, you know, having more social workers able to provide perspective and information and advocate in the halls of power in many different arenas. So I'm very hopeful that more people will begin to see and understand the value of this profession and the value of having just one social worker at the table, just one in the room. I'm hoping that for our immediate community, we will be able to see some shifts related, especially related to housing inequality and housing instability. Chicago has been a site of much experimentation when it comes to housing, urban housing, and trying to identify solutions to give people access to affordable but safe housing, to foster community, things of that nature. Not all of those experiments have been successful, but I think Chicago remains a good testing ground and a good fertile ground for being a leader for the rest of our country as far as identifying solutions to give people access to the things that we need. From my perspective, housing is a human right. It's something that's currently tied to your economic status, which is further interlaced with issues of class and issues of race, right? We can't pretend that everyone has equal access to the resources they need to even get a job to afford housing, things of that nature. We have to be honest about where the obstacles are and where systems are working against one another and are not cooperating and are not facilitating the health and the thriving of our community. So I'm very hopeful that the future of social work in Chicago, we will see and hear from more social works in many other channels, in many other ways, in many other areas, and that we further will be empowered by our community, that there will be more trust in this profession from our community, and that people will begin to see us as those liaisons, to see us as resources and as agents of change, agents of positive change in our community.
Well, thank you so much, panelists. We really appreciate your responses and just your detailed answers from your own personal perspectives. And now we will be turning it to the audience to answer any questions. So if you have any questions, I know Hannah put it in the chat. Please drop them. Or if you would like to ask your question, turn on your camera or unmute yourself, you are able to do that as well.
I have a question. So hi, my name is Alex. I'm a current student of social work, also at SSA. First, just want to say thank you to you all for participating in this panel and for quite literally blazing the trail for folks like myself to pursue a master's of social work. Pat literally helped create the part-time program at UIC. Erica helped advocate for evening students. And so just want to start off with that. And one question I have, and this could really be for anyone, is as a student of social work, like how do you figure out exactly what area you would like to go into? There's so many different things you can do and so many intersecting, you can work with youth, you can work in education, you can work in homelessness. And so what would your advice or suggestion be for students who are pursuing social work but might not be sure exactly what their niche is?
Hi, this is Josephine. What I would do is kind of with your social work internship experiences, use that and kind of what gets you passionate. What I always tell people, what would you do if you weren't getting paid for it? That you could be excited about going and doing what you do. I know social work was a big field, and there were things that in social work that I wasn't excited about. So I think what happened in the olden days, and I think sometimes a little less, you have people that really don't like the people that they're serving, and they really don't want to be there, but they're there. And I think that's such a disservice to the people that we serve, whether you're at the individual level or you're doing advocacy and policy. So what I encourage young people to do is look at and really give thought to what gives you passion. Because in social work, you're right, there's so many avenues that you can do, but please don't pick the hot and trending thing because that's what everybody else is doing. Go for what you believe to be true and do it to the best of your ability. And not to say that you won't change, but I love community. I've always worked in community, and that's what I was passionate about. So that's what I would suggest for people to do, young social workers, to look at.
I echo that. I was going to say the same thing. Follow your heart. Let yourself be led by what you're enthusiastic about, what you feel very strongly about, what you feel you could contribute a significant amount of your life to addressing. And you'll never regret such a decision because it's authentic.
I just kind of like to add to that. You know, you also have different stages of your life. I mean, I've gone through several different stages. When I first became a social worker, I knew I wanted to work with kids, but I was also very interested in education and making sure that children got a good education, and being an advocate for them. And I was lucky, again, I became a school social worker, so I got social work and education together. And I also had an opportunity to grow in that field. You know, I always tried to challenge myself every year by doing something a little bit different, something that kind of pushed me to learn a little bit more, or to do a little bit more, or to involve a different group of kids or parents, or just something a little bit different. And then I also, you know, as you get older, you maybe develop a feeling that, hey, I can do this. You don't always have that when you start out. It's like, oh, I'm not sure I have the skills. I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. But as you get older, you think, I can do this sometimes even if I don't know what I'm doing. But I know that I'll figure it out. And so for me, it was going from doing therapy in school settings with children and families to going into administration and then managing programs and managing the direction of programming and policy and things of that sort that had a different kind of an impact, but then also trying not to lose a sense of who it is affected by those policies and who it is that continues to need the services, to always kind of keep part of myself in that area of working with kids, you know. So I really, again, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful for me because in working with the homeless education program, I was working with kids, I was working with families, developing resources, and continuing that interest in education. So, you know, if you can just, for me, it's part of also trying to grow and trying to make sure that you keep developing yourself as you are growing, and kind of also remembering where you came from and what you were doing before, so you don't lose sight of the direction that you wanted to go in as you grow.
Okay, so in the interest of time, we have one more question from the audience. If we could keep it maybe under like 5-ish minutes, but it's coming from Amelia. And she's asking, what is something that would surprise people about social work?
The first thing that comes to my mind is the fact that around 75% of social workers are women. It's a very, very heavily women-led profession. And we don't have time to go into why that is, but I think that's a surprising number.
I think the ability to do so much with a social work education and a social work degree. There are social workers that do therapy. There are social workers. I ran a settlement house for almost 22 years. I worked in a school setting. I worked for a Christian humanitarian organization. And all of those organizations, I was able to use my social work skills. So I think that that's something, is that the diversity in terms of your intervention is very wide. And as someone mentioned, as you grow and develop, you can do different things. But I think people would be surprised that people who have social work backgrounds, who have become noted civil rights activists and people that have ran for government and become effective elected officials. So I think that that's what social work really gives you an opportunity to really do a wide variety of things. And those skills that you develop can make that happen. Yeah, Whitney Young was a social worker. And I worked with his sister was a professor at U of C when I was there. So I think people that you don't assume, so I think that's it, is that you don't have to be pigeonholed and have to do one thing. So.
Hi guys, I just want to say thank you, and I'm so appreciative that I was able to get on this panel. It really was uplifting. Do want to answer that last question, and exactly what Josephine and someone else said. It's broad. It's so broad. I mean, you could health, it's gerontology, it's youth, it's religion, it's everything. So I just think if you want to do something in it, do a lot of soul searching and just know, like, what is my passion? What do I truly, truly love to do? And then make that happen, and try not to have student loan debts from your grad school. Great idea. So, just do a lot of soul searching. But thank you so much. I gotta hop off.
Just briefly, thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Just briefly, I would say, again, you have a broad area of what you can do. But the other thing is, it kind of prepares you for a leadership role. And I think that that's really important because you are able to relate to other people so well. I think you learn that skill. If you don't already have it when you go into social work, you certainly learn it as a social worker. And you can use that skill certainly in being a leader, in forming a nonprofit, in running a nonprofit, or a for-profit. But it gives you the skill to definitely take on that leadership role. And I really wish we had a lot of social workers in leadership roles. And I certainly would encourage anyone who's interested in social work to take a look at themselves and think about taking on that leadership role. I think that's super important. We need more social workers in positions of power, I guess I would say, influencing policy. We definitely need more social workers. In Congress, we could certainly use a lot of social workers.
I agree. Getting ready for this panel, I asked myself the question, if I could imagine what our Senate would look like, our federal Senate would look like, if it was entirely populated by social workers. I think we would get so much more done.
Just imagine.
Yes.
Today, all I can do is imagine. But it starts with the thought.
Yes.
Well, you can run at some point too, Eric.
Well,
it's a thought.
It's a thought.
Well, I want to say thank you also to everyone, and to Josephine. I've had the privilege of going to World Vision groups that you put together, and I certainly thank you for all the work that you've done, helping other people and bringing resources together. It's been wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
You too.
If you would like to learn more about Chicago Hopes for Kids and the services we provide, visit chicagohopesforkids.org.